The United Kingdom is one of the most important trading partners for companies in North Rhine-Westphalia. But a trade board survey shows a gloomy picture. Over 60% of the companies affected assess the situation as bad. More than half expect an increasing deterioration in 2021, the first real Brexit year. The main problems after the Goen International survey is customs bureaucracy with 75%, obstacles in logistics with 60%, and tariff barriers to trade with 50%. Many companies in the Münsterland are also affected, and that's where I live, by the way. And by the way, you should stay tuned until the end if you don't want to miss anything interesting, and if you don't want to miss anything at all. Just subscribe to my channel and click the little bell. Negotiations about a national guarantee have collapsed. For companies, Brexit is a hammer, despite the trade agreement agreed at the last minute. A no-deal Brexit would have been a steel hammer. With an agreement, it is a rubber hammer, says Gerd Lautwein, international team leader at the North Rhine-Westphalia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. But if you could get hold of it, a rubber mallet hurts. On New Year's Eve, Brexit has become a tangible reality with the expiry of the transitional rules. Despite the agreement, there are problems: bureaucracy, logistics difficulties, and legal uncertainty. This also applies to many companies here in the Münsterland. Around 500 companies in the Chamber District regularly trade goods with Great Britain, according to Lautwein. For example, the large confectionery Koppenrad and Wiese in Mettingen. Great Britain is an important market for us, says Managing Director Peter Schmidt. Of the total turnover of 440 million euros, exports account for 20%, of which 3/4 are in the UK. So far, we have managed to keep this percentage stable, a great success if you look at the difficult environment that has been burdened by Brexit for some time. Even before Brexit, deliveries of goods from the Münsterland and Emscher-Lippe area to the United Kingdom fell sharply. According to the North Rhine-Westphalia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, there are, as I said, around 500 companies in the Chamber District that regularly exchange goods with the UK. In 2018, goods worth 1.4 billion euros went to the UK compared to just 1.2 billion in 2019. Then came the not very meaningful Corona year 2020. Great Britain was once in third place of the most important export countries for our region. Now it is in seventh place, said Gerd Lautwein from the IHK North Westphalia. And Schmidt is relieved that it did not come to a no-deal Brexit. At the moment, we are mainly noticing that the administrative tasks have increased significantly as a result of the exit from the EU, says Schmidt. According to a survey by the German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, 3 out of 4 companies have expect additional bureaucracy in the UK business. The DIHK assumes that German companies have to submit around 10 million customs declarations every year. Because even if the most goods in traffic between the UK and the continent do not have to be charged due to the trade agreement, every shipment has to go through customs, and some certificates are required. That costs time and money, says Lautwein. Peter Schmidt from Koppenrad and Wiese expects even more paperwork from April 1st, because from then on, additional documents will be required for products with cream, among other things. The customs formalities are a lot of work. That costs time and money, confirms Andreas Schmitz, CEO of Schmitz Cargo Bull AG. The company from Horstmar and Altenberge builds more than 46,000 trailers per year, and Europe's leading manufacturer of semi-trailers, trailers and motor vehicle bodies makes more than 80% of sales abroad. Great Britain is a particularly relevant market for us when it comes to the delivery of refrigerated box semi-trailers. That means refrigerated trucks, explains Schmitz. And our trailers themselves are duty-free, but we still have to fill out the customs papers, explains Schmitz. Delivering to Great Britain is now more difficult than to the non-EU countries Norway or Switzerland, because they have contracts with the EU that make the movement of goods much easier. But they are in the European Economic Zone, and the UK didn't want that. Appetito, the catering specialist from Rheine, has its largest foreign subsidiary with its own production facility in the United Kingdom. The Rhenish people have therefore closely observed the Brexit negotiations for years and have always assumed a hard Brexit to be on the safe side. And the result is now the Appetito location in the UK is largely self-sufficient. Cooking is done on site in the British Appetito kitchen, says Reine. Only dishes for special nutritional requirements, such as pureed menus, are cooked in Rheine and delivered to Great Britain. But for some articles that contain fish, there may currently be small delays because extended certificates are required. Otherwise, the exchange runs smoothly in the vast majority of cases. Different regulations and certificates are a problem that could grow in the future. So far, the British have based themselves on European rules. But it was a declared aim of Brexit to set up their own, more flexible British rules. The rules could diverge in the long term, says Lautwein. For example, in fire resistance. If the British demanded that a chipboard withstand the flames for just a few minutes longer, shop fitters like Mettinger Carsten Schemberg would have a problem. A new certification is necessary before I can deliver to the UK, says the president of the German Shop Fitting Association. Quite fear of many entrepreneurs on the continent is this is another way to slow down unpleasant competition. And then there's another problem that celebrities like Elton John, Ed Sheeran, Sting or Simon Rattle are already familiar with, and which could soon affect companies in the Münsterland in a similar way. Since Brexit, new rules apply when Brits want to work on the continent and Europeans want to work on the island. The free movement of workers is a thing of the past. Currently, the problem is still covered by the corona travel restrictions, but when it is no longer just about initiating new businesses, many business trips to the United Kingdom will soon be more difficult, says Gerd Lautwein, international team leader at the IHK North Rhine-Westphalia. Sting, Sheeran and 100 other music stars have already accused the British government of failing to negotiate visa rules for cultural workers after Brexit. The costs for work permits, visas and other bureaucratic rules made tours unprofitable, the music stars complained in an open letter. And something else, nearly 100 years after partition, prickly issues around Brexit and demographic changes have seen support grow for reunification in Ireland. Those marking Northern Ireland's centenary this summer may find themselves pausing to wonder how many anniversaries it has left. Driven by demographic shifts and accelerated by Brexit, Irish unity is no longer confined to just wishful nationalists, but now recognized as a serious and pressing issue for governments in Belfast, Dublin and London. We are looking at it within years, not decades, said John O'Dowd, a politician in the Northern Irish Assembly for Sinn Féin, which supports reunification. The demographic and political changes that are happening in the north and across the island of Ireland won't wait decades. There's a growing conversation and a growing swell of opinion around it. Polls suggest that increasing numbers of people in Northern Ireland, which was created in May 1921 after the partition of Ireland, agree. A recent survey found that a majority favored holding a referendum on unity within the next 5 years, with 47% currently in favor of remaining in the United Kingdom and 42% supporting a united Ireland. Among the under 45s, reunification led by 47 to 46. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald has urged governments in Dublin and London to begin serious preparations for the possibility that Northern Ireland leaves the UK in the future. The Good Friday Agreement of 1998, which concluded the Troubles, a decades-long civil conflict that claimed thousands of lives, states that the UK government may call a vote if it believes there is a likelihood that most would choose to leave the Union and join a united Ireland. I think what the polls are picking up is a shift in enthusiasm for the idea of a united Ireland and a shift in enthusiasm for a referendum, says Brendan O'Leary, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania who has authored several books on Northern Ireland. People believe as a result of Brexit that Northern contentment with the world after the Good Friday Agreement is no longer settled, and in addition, the UK itself is unstable. While most people in England and Wales voted to leave the European Union in the June 2016 referendum, 62% in Scotland and 56% in Northern Ireland voted to remain in the European Union. No UK region has been so deeply affected by Brexit as Northern Ireland, whose open border to the neighbouring Republic of Ireland proved the most vexing issue throughout the Brexit trade negotiations. The ultimate compromise was the Northern Ireland Protocol, which in January introduced regulatory and customs checks on imports from the rest of the UK, keeping the North within the EU single market and the Irish border free of barriers or checkpoints. But the new customs arrangements have played havoc with food and parcel deliveries. Supermarket shelves have been empty at times, and several big British retailers have stopped shipments to Northern Ireland. The protocol is a complete disaster, said Ulster Unionist Party leader Steve Aiken, who described growing anger from his constituents, now burdened with unfamiliar paperwork and charges. And the message was expected from that direction. Along with the ruling Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, the UUP has vigorously opposed the protocol and the so-called sea border, which it believes has unwillingly pushed Northern Unionists toward an economically unified Ireland, as well as delivering a boon to the nationalist cause. There's always been a push from people who want to see the British identity on the island of Ireland removed. This is just the latest aspect of it, said Aiken, who wants politicians to focus on Brexit and the effects of COVID-19 instead of a potentially divisive referendum. Well, one probably leads to the other. There are many people who saw Brexit as an opportunity to further try and promote their aim of ripping up the United Kingdom, he said. Northern Ireland's First Minister and DUP leader Arlene Foster has led calls for the protocol to be scrapped or revised as a row between the EU and the UK over its full implementation continues to escalate. Others have gone further, with several paramilitary outfits recently announcing via an open letter to the Prime Minister of Ireland and the UK that they were withdrawing from the Good Friday Agreement. The Loyalist Communities Council, which represents the Ulster Volunteer Force, Ulster Defence Force and the Red Hand Commandos, said both governments will be responsible for the permanent destruction of the agreement if the protocol is not amended to restore unfettered access for goods and services. The group rejected any consideration of violence, and the desire to avoid conflict is near total across nationalist and unionist communities. But the shadow of the Troubles lingers and intercommunal relations remain strained in many areas. The partition of Northern Ireland in 1921 gave the predominantly unionist Protestant community a 2-to-1 majority over the Catholic community, which sympathized largely with the nationalist cause. But the demographics have been steadily changing. A census to be conducted in March is for the first time widely expected to return a small majority for those in Northern Ireland with Catholic heritage. Younger voters are less likely to subscribe to the nationalist unionist binary, placing more importance on EU membership, healthcare, and social policies. Sinn Féin, the former political arm of the Irish Republican Army, the IRA, which was a paramilitary group, has in recent years burnished its social democratic credentials, riding a wave of anger at poor housing and healthcare to a close second place, finishing in last year's Irish elections. Its unity pitch foregrounds the benefits for the North's sluggish economy, promising more investment and employment opportunities to appeal to those outside the traditional nationalist fold. The UUP and the DUP have proven less adaptable in widening their base, the latter's backing of Brexit and the UK's governing Conservative Party now appearing a critical misjudgment. Alliance, a centrist party that is strongly pro-EU and neutral on the Union, has succeeded in attracting many young Protestants and is currently polling just 1 point behind the DUP ahead of May's Assembly elections. The UUP and the DUP have proven less adaptable, as I said, and it really was a mistake to back the Conservatives when they were missing votes before the elections in the House of Commons. And you know what the Tories did to them right after the next election. And so it is no wonder if they don't change, time will run over you. If it's a choice between the EU and the United Kingdom, I pick the United Kingdom every time, said the DUP leader. And the majority of people in Northern Ireland will do the same. The wording of the Good Friday Agreement offers some ambiguity as to when the British government should call a referendum. University College London's Constitution Unit suggests a consistent majority in opinion polls, a nationalist majority within the Assembly, or an Assembly vote in favour of a united Ireland could all factor this. But all of those remain some years away. For now, the newly founded Shared Ireland Unit, an initiative of the Irish government, offers a platform for increased cooperation between Belfast and Dublin on cross-border issues, while civil nationalist groups like Ireland's Future advocate for inclusive dialogue between all parties. Sinn Féin's O'Dowd believes that Unionists may in fact find themselves with more influence in a united Ireland, no longer held back by the English nationalists who pulled them out of the EU. What has to be learned from the partition of Ireland about 100 years ago is that when you impose solutions on the minority, and when you ignore that minority, it causes trouble, said O'Dowd. And one more thing is, a rapid economic recovery, sustained fiscal support, and the housing-specific measures in the UK budget mean that policymakers are likely to successfully mitigate the negative impact of the pandemic on the housing market. As a result, capital economic strategists now believe that house prices will avoid a decline and will instead increase 3% year over year in 2021 and 2.5% in 2022. The risks to the housing market from higher unemployment, both indirectly through its sentiment and directly by causing distressed sales, have diminished. Excellent advances in vaccination and government support for household incomes mean we have a swift economic. Expect recovery when restrictions are relaxed, they say. We now believe that most of the decline in employment is behind us and that the unemployment rate will peak at 6% by the end of this year. When we made our previous forecast that house prices would fall this year, we expected that the unemployment rate would reach 7%. While we still expect house prices to cool later this year, we no longer expect them to go down. Annual house price inflation will remain high for the next 2 quarters as the base effect of a house price stall in the second quarter of 2020, when the market was closed, will drive the year-on-year comparison. In the fourth quarter, however, it should slow down significantly. Our new annual forecast for house prices is 3% in 2021 and 2.5% in 2022, as I said.